Today, we're going to talk about the 6 mistakes that you could make drinking water. So let's start with the first one, drinking too much water. Now, is this possible? Yes, it is, especially when you force yourself to drink all this water, especially without the electrolytes that help you deal with this extra water. And I know there's a lot of gurus out there that say the most important thing, you need to keep drinking a lot of water, right? As that's the absolute most important thing you can do. You should drink a gallon of water a day. Well, that's fine, but are you exercising? Are you sweating? Are you taking electrolytes? Are you taking enough sea salt? What happens when you drink too much water? You can dilute electrolytes, specifically salt, and you can create a condition called hypopatremia, where there's not enough sodium in your blood. And that actually is a form of dehydration. So it is possible that drinking too much water can put you in a situation where you're dehydrated. And I just want to make a point. I'm not against water. You just need to drink the right amount. Hopefully, you have the sensation of thirst that can tell you when you're thirsty now. On the flip side, if you are prone to kidney stones, you should be drinking at least 2.5 liters of fluid a day because the kidney stone develops in a supersaturated concentration of urine. So if you're drinking enough water, it's almost impossible to develop a stone. And so should we all drink exactly 8 glasses of water a day? It really depends on a lot of variables that I'm going to get into in this video. So the point of number one is just make sure you're not forcing yourself to drink gallons of water because people have died from the condition called hyponatremia. And I will put that link down below. All right, number two, drinking water too quickly. Now, this is not like a major point. It's a minor point. But when you drink water too fast, sometimes the sodium in your blood doesn't have a chance to help balance this fluid. And that's one of sodium's jobs, is to help balance fluid inside and outside the cell. And so when you're forcing too quickly, too much water in your body, that can actually create some swelling, especially if it's a lot of water because of what happens to sodium. Sodium will start going into the cell too fast and you'll be deficient outside the cell. So it creates this imbalance situation. So when you drink water, do it at a pace that is not too fast. All right, number three, having this idea that you're getting all your hydration from other fluids like coffee, tea, maybe alcohol, which completely dehydrates you, soda, which is completely dehydrating. And yes, there are certain people out there that think that soda hydrates you. It doesn't. So when you're drinking like coffee and tea, realize that both of those have a mild diuretic effect. So they can be pushing fluid out of your body and not necessarily hydrating you. And also, if you're on a diuretic on top of that, and you're pushing all this fluid out of your body, it can make you very dehydrated. And so what you drink is a factor to look at, and there's other variables to look at as well. What is the temperature outside? If you're living in an environment that's very hot, you're probably going to need more fluid if you're exercising and you're sweating a lot. You're going to need a lot of fluids if you have a condition where you're not exercising, but you sweat a lot. That's another factor if you're experiencing diarrhea or vomiting. Both of those conditions can very quickly dehydrate you. If you just started the ketogenic diet and you're dumping a lot of extra fluid, that's something to look at because all that stored sugar in your muscles and your liver also retains a lot of fluid. For every gram of stored glucose, you're storing 3 grams of water. So when you're on a high carb diet, you're basically a fluid-filled sponge. And when you start reducing your carbs, that fluid just starts coming out. And so if you're not taking the right electrolytes with enough fluid, you can potentially become dehydrated, especially when you start keto. Now, another factor that I want to bring up that a lot of people don't consider is if you're consuming a lot of potassium, as in an electrolyte drink with a lot of potassium, if you're not also taking enough sodium potentially with all these other factors, you can become more dehydrated. Now, the only reason I'm bringing that up is outside and you're sweating and your diet doesn't have enough salt. Let's say you don't put any salt. You know, it's something to look at because potassium is balanced out with sodium. You need the right ratios. But on the flip side, the most common situation is where someone is not getting enough potassium because they're not eating enough vegetables. They're heavier on the salts. They have more fluid retention. They're usually always deficient in potassium. And so doing more potassium tends to help with them all. Right, number four, drinking a good amount of water when you're eating. That can dilute your gastric juices like hydrochloric acid. And if you already have a weakness within this area, you don't have enough stomach acid, or it's not acid enough, which is very common, especially if you're over the age of 45. Drinking more water with your meals will dilute your ability to digest, especially protein, and you may end up with GERD or acid reflux. So I always recommend if you're going to drink with a meal, just don't overdo it. It's better if you drink maybe a half hour before the meal or a half hour later. But I don't want to make this a really big point. If you are thirsty in a meal, go ahead and drink. But the point is, if you're already deficient in the gastric juices, drinking more water will weaken your stomach's ability to digest protein. All right, number 5, drinking extremely cold water in large amounts can inhibit the vagus nerve. Now, this is a minor point. This is not a big point. Some people can drink a lot of cold water, no problem. But if your digestive system is already weak, let's say you get a lot of bloating or you have a lot of digestive issues, and you drink a good amount of ice cold water that can slow down the vagus nerve, which is responsible for digestion. All right, and number 6, drinking tap water. Now, some people will say that drinking tap water is safe, but they're finding all sorts of things in tap water that are not safe. Not to mention the normal chlorine and fluoride, but also glyphosate, which is the chemical Roundup Ready that is involved with the GMO foods. You have chemicals that affect fertility hormones, your brain. You have chemicals that are carcinogenic. And on top of that, there's a lot of nano-sized particles, very small particles of plastics that you're getting when you're drinking tap water. So just get a good filter to filter that out.